Welcome back to another episode of Broker's Blueprint. I'm your host, Martino Picariello, alongside my co-host, Nick Giganti. We have a very great guest on today, Nick. Friend of yours.
Neighbor, literally right behind my house. Matt Smith from Valor Built. I got to know Matt. Matt actually bought the lot behind my house, and him and his dad literally would show up to the job site at 5:30 every morning. Very consistent, I will say, and literally built this house with their bare hands. Obviously, they use subs and stuff, but Matt and his dad were literally swinging the hammers every day. A lot of work. They built a beautiful house. Beautiful house. And I think that's kudos to you guys. You guys really put it together. It's a great looking house.
Was that the alarm clock for a while there? 5:30 every day, just here?
No, and Matt would say that. He'd be like, dude, I didn't want to wake you. I'm like, dude, I didn't hear shit. So I'm totally fine. Like, you know.
Dude, Matt, how are you, man? Thanks for coming on. Nick, thank you for coordinating this.
Yeah, definitely.
What's going on, Matt?
Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, to kind of go off of what Nick was saying, the backstory is actually complex but simple. So I was in the Army until right around 2020. And
you graduated West Point too, right?
Yeah, graduated. What's that?
Wow.
Yeah, you and Amy, your wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I met Amy in 2013 when we were juniors at West Point, and then we graduated in 2014. And when you graduate from West Point, you pick your branch. So I was an infantry officer, and she was a military police officer. And then you also pick your post. So your post is somewhere, maybe not even in America. It could be Germany, it could be Hawaii. Well, that's America, but off the continental United States. And when you go in there, we had been dating for just about a year, and we're 23 years old. So we had like a mature conversation. Like, if you get Germany and I get Hawaii, like, this thing's probably not going to work out. So let's put down our top 5 and flip our card over. And if we have the same top 3, then we'll try and get the same post together and go from there.
Smart. And just to ask, is that a luxury, I guess, to pick your post?
Yeah.
Like,
So
being from West Point, it's like, you deserve this.
Yeah. And also, too, it's based off of your class rank in your class. So, for example, to keep it simple, if you're the number 1 ranked kid in the class of 2014, you get the first pick on where you want to go.
That's
so
good.
A lot of those
incentive.
Girls or guys get to go to Vicenza, Italy, and their post there. It's like a nice union out there. So that's a high, very popular post. So what I didn't want to do was go to her and say, this is the post I want. You better come with me or we're breaking up. So we kind of flipped the card, and we both had the same number 1. We both wanted to go to Fort Campbell, which is right outside of Nashville. And we both put in for it. And she texted me, so she got Fort Campbell at like 8:00 p.m. say. It's like 8:15, and I haven't got up to go up on the stage to say what my post will be yet. So she's like in the back of the auditorium, like a scene from a movie, like, is this the end of our relationship? So I got up there and we got Fort Campbell and kind of, had some beers and fun, and then moved to outside of Nashville. And that's where I did my lieutenant and captain time in the Army. So that was like it was a funny way to start off a new relationship. It was like, where are we going to live?
Dude.
Yeah.
And then after that, then you did go overseas, right?
Yeah. So in 2016, like the summer of 2016, I deployed just north of Baghdad and south of Mosul. And our mission that was when we were transitioning to more of training the Iraqi army to fight ISIS instead of the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And my kind of detail there was, our job was kind of to secure the training. So we had the 9th Iraq Army, and they were pushing forward into Mosul because ISIS had controlled Mosul for most of 2016. And our job was to train the 9th Iraq Army to be able to like really handle ISIS in Mosul. So I was there until February of 2017. And we got to see an election. We got to see the kind of like really the tail end of ISIS. And that was my role there as the heavy weapons platoon leader. And when I redeployed back home, I got promoted to first lieutenant and became an executive officer for one of our units in our battalion, and went from there. So Yeah, interesting life experience to say the least.
Yeah, how was training the Iraqi soldiers? Like, are you divulging all of our kind of tactics to these people to
the first what you don't realize, I guess, in the beginning is we don't put enough credit sometimes in like, who are you? Like, this is where I was born. This is a fight my father and my grandfather have been a part of. Like, who are you? And to come in here and tell us how we can protect ourselves in a war that you know nothing about. So the first goal is to say, well, not only are we the good guys, but we care about your fight. And building that trust as quickly as possible is important. But don't forget this. 6 weeks before I showed up, they had another guy that looked like me from another unit that may have been like a shitty leader or not interested in their fight or in their story. So I'm battling who he thinks I'm good friends with, I know nothing about. And I got to build trust as soon as possible, like in a combat zone. So
how do you do that?
Well, I think the best way to do it is it's a form of consistency, and it's also a form of patience. People put a lot of stock in words, and words fall flat a lot, I think. And when I show up every morning at 7 a.m. or like Nick said, 5:30, when I, those first 6 weeks of me building my house, it literally didn't look like we did anything. And then a year and a half later, I showed up at 5:30 every day, and I got a beautiful house. So that consistency of showing up every day and saying, we're not leaving until you guys get better at this thing, and it could save your life, and putting yourself out there in their shoes. Here's a good example too. In their culture, of the Iraqi culture, one of the things that they do is men that are very friendly and are close friends, like your best friend in a wedding or whatever it may be, they hold hands when they walk to lunch or when they go someplace. And for us, obviously, there's a joke there and it's uncomfortable, but we actually trained on me walking with my platoon sergeant and holding hands. And we trained it. And it's like, I understand, or I'm at least putting the effort towards like understanding your story and your culture and becoming a part of that so we can help you guys. And that is uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. There are moments there where you do not want to hold your buddy's hand because that's not our culture, right? But that one morning where you're holding your hand and holding the battalion commander's hand, it's that little moment where they go, all right, they're here for the right reasons. We're trying. And then all of a sudden you make a joke, and then another week goes by and it's the same thing every morning. We're here to help. We're here to help. And then before you know it, cracking jokes and they want to learn. It takes time, takes time.
That's cool.
You always say it's like, just say or do what you're saying,
right.
Like don't make empty promises. And like you said, words they do mean a lot. And to back it up with action is all you can do. That's the only thing we can control as people.
Right.
Definitely.
So,
and I'm sure what you learned, obviously in the Army, graduating West Point is really, it's very equatable to starting a business. And because a lot of starting a business, you don't see that gratification right away. It takes a lot of consistency. It takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of understanding where you want to be and really focusing on your goals to get you through those down times. But Valor Built is now, if you want to talk about it, starting your business, like what you guys are focusing on. Obviously you have a title that basically is towards the military, right? So if you want to go into a little bit of the background of your company that you've created now.
And just to add, I'm curious what drew you to construction out of all the things you could have done. So that as well, I'm just genuinely curious of.
Well, from the first, I'll start with Nick's commentary. It's like how can you be confident in something you've never done? Like when you start a company, I've never had to earn the trust from a client and build a house for them yet. So how can you be comfortable and confident in something you haven't done? And ways you can work through that is I've never deployed and I've never been in Baghdad and I've never shown up with new orders with a new mission everything everyone's doing is new. And the more I'm able to get comfortable being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, the more you actually seek them out. So when I find out that I can trust myself and believe in myself in certain situations, especially the complex ones, the mundane and straightforward jobs that make a lot of money don't interest me, because I enjoy that feeling of showing my value and being uncomfortable, but being comfortable with it. So entrepreneurship is a perfect way of expressing that. Like, I'm going to jump into something I'm not necessarily qualified for yet,
Yet.
Yeah.
It's a key word.
Yeah, that's the key thing. It's like no one's qualified until they jump in the water. And that's where I kind of like separate myself and other ambitions in my life. And when I was leaving the military, one of the challenges I had is, what am I going to do for the rest of my life? Because on my resume, it's very challenging to communicate what I've done. And it doesn't necessarily apply to a lot of the standard industries. Here's a quick example. When I was applying for a hospital supply chain job out in Colorado, one of the things they said was, we can only pay you this because you only have 1 year of logistical experience. And I wanted to make a comment of like, do you realize that logistical experience I had was redeploying a battalion fleet through 5 different countries, and one of them was a combat zone?
It's basically 3 years or 5 years or 10 years shoved into 1 year. Like,
yeah, and I'm not, I have no interest in like, puffing out my chest or anything. It's like, there's not an apples to apples thing happening here. Like, we have to be able to communicate, but then also there's not many jobs that I was looking for outside of the police force that would be, I'm a qualified marksman and I'm very good at bounding and maneuvering our units through a concealed area and time on target. Like, there's a lot of military stuff. They're like, we don't do any of that. So you have to have an understanding there and of like how they get sit in their seat and understand what they're looking at. So when I was leaving the Army, and I'm circling back to your question here, Martina, but when I was leaving the Army, you're looking for what's your next venture and what you're qualified to do that in. And I have an inflated version of what I'm capable of, and the market has a deflated version of what I can actually do, because I've never done any of this. I've just been in the Army. So when I was leaving, I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start my own thing. I believe in myself. I believe I can bring value in some form. I just didn't know what that was. And halfway through building my own house, which was an interest in actually getting a home for me and my wife since we were both leaving the Army, it was actually a function of where we're going to live. Halfway through, it popped. It like clicked. And I was like, this is it. You have the epiphany
kind of the vision.
This is it. You've got a blue collar and a white collar hybrid role. You have to manage these large projects with exterior township entities, a client that has never been through a construction project. You have a blue collar subcontractor, one of which is the smartest guy in the room, and the other one may be doing meth. Like,
may or may not be.
Yeah, obviously that's a clear, obvious joke, but you have such a range of personalities and true knowledge base and different goals, and you bring them all together, and then you eventually have a family with kids living there. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is it. And finishing my house, I genuinely looked at that experience as a master's degree. Like, I don't know what school will be able to provide me the knowledge of actually framing my whole home and then actually coordinating the plumber, electrician, the drywall, working with the township to make sure that I'm in the right flatlands, drylands, all of the things I've got to get from a permitting perspective. Like, I do not know what school is presenting that. And that's when I was like, I am qualified to manage these projects going forward. And I'm going to start small and do them right and go from there. So that led me to construction that way.
My first thing that I'm thinking of right now that I take away from our initial 10, 15 minutes is one, alignment. It starts with you and Amy. Like,
right.
I'm not going to force you to do what I want to do, but let's see if there's alignment in where we want to go. And of course it works out. And then communication. Like, to communicate with a wide range of personalities is a skill that not many people have, that I'm very fortunate to say my mentor Nick has a ton of. Like, his ability to take two different brains and put them into the same alignment. So it's both, communication to find alignment is exactly what you're doing. So like, that's present for me.
Yeah, and I think that's with construction too. And the end user really appreciates it is when the person that is running the company communicates well, because there's so many construction companies out there. You know, I literally just had a conversation with somebody. I'm not going to name him, but totally got dogged by this construction company. Gave him a big deposit. It's been 8 months. He's just sitting on something that has not been done, down by the shore. And it's just like those stories, there's just so many of them where, there's just a lack of transparency. Everybody a lot of times has bad taste in their mouth when they work with certain construction companies, sometimes great experiences, but I think with construction, it goes back to like our jobs too. Communication is everything. And it's like, as long as you're communicating well with, your client, even if there is a delay, but you're letting them know ahead of time, then that goes a long way. Goes a long way.
Right. Yeah. And one thing I've noticed with our clients just this far is sometimes the worst news is no news, like what you're saying.
Yep.
Like the bad news is conquerable. We're going to figure it out. If it's a problem that money can fix, it's not necessarily a huge problem. Where the problems really present themselves is when are they showing up today? Who's in charge? They said they were going to do this. Like when there's no news, people start getting very uncomfortable and antsy. And then you're dealing with the client that you have to win back. So I over communicate. And I also think that a lot of young business folks don't understand how much effort that actually takes. Like there is a true effort towards communicating really well, especially if you're running multiple projects, which we are right now. That is a full-time almost position to be able to communicate. For example, we have the new construction project we're doing right now. The family wants to have their kids put their hands in their concrete, right? Simple from their perspective. I love that stuff. That's what our company should be doing. I love that. Like the conversations of moving the concrete pour date and then making sure that the siding guys are all the way, make sure the daycare is handled so they can show up. When are they going to be? It's like, it has been a week-long effort to make sure they can put their hands in something.
Wow. Yeah.
So I owe it to them for that, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge. So
I like that. That's what your company's built on, though, is just the end user. Oftentimes companies are built on their own ambitions, which is fair, right? We all want to, achieve our own goals. But when your goals, once again, align with the end users, it's like, wait, this is a match made in heaven. Right. And another thing that I heard too is like, you're trying to, at least when you were getting out of the military, maybe fit in this box of what society or the market required at that time. And you just built your own box, no pun intended as a builder, but you just made your own box. You're like, screw this. I got this. And once again, it goes into just jumping in the water. So I admire that.
The big thing about the Army and people that are not in the Army understand that there's a focus on discipline in the military. Obviously, that's a big word and it becomes a cliche, but it's a big word used. And it's something that they built in me and helped build in me. And when I was leaving, I noticed that, like, I had a commander that made a comment that your discipline equals freedom. And what that means is your ambitions and efforts to wake up every day and do a good job on something will lead to your freedom. So if you do not have discipline, someone else is going to run your life. And whether it's your boss, whether it's a relationship, if you do not have the discipline to wake up every day and control your life the way you want it to, somebody else will. And that's where my entrepreneur energy comes from. I believe in myself and I believe I can do that because I want the freedom at some point. So that's
Amen. Amen, dude. So many people have it backwards where it's like, I just want someone to tell me what to do. I don't want the responsibility, right? But that responsibility is freedom. It's all about just the way you look at things, the frame you're looking through. And I also think that has a lot to do with the way that we're nurtured as we grow up. And you were obviously in a very disciplined mindset just from West Point on. And I'm sure before that you had some kind of disciplined mindset. So what type of construction are you focused on right now? You said you have a couple of projects going on?
Yeah. So that question right there is, I think, the number one question besides growth and who we're going to potentially hire. The number one question we're trying to answer right now is, what do we want to build? And we have a commercial project we're working in right now. We built a bakery in Phoenixville on Bridge Street, which was obviously a commercial project. We're building a new construction house in Chadds Ford, which is a residential project. And one of the things when I was going through business school was it's hard enough to do one thing well in business. It's even harder to do multiple. And my big fear getting this thing started was we're going to say yes to every job because we're fearful of not getting more. So come one, come all, we don't really have a niche. Mm-hmm. And my ambition this year was maybe we can tighten that, market on what we build. And then as the year's gone on, I put that back down and said, you know what, our niche is, we just manage projects well. That's just what we do. Like McDonald's puts a lot of money into saying we want all of our Big Macs across the United States to taste the same. And they put a ton of effort into that. We don't really have that luxury of we make one thing every day. Every job is different. Every job site is different. Every client is different. And it's like, okay, so we're going to go back to our niche of being, we just manage the shit out of these projects. And it doesn't matter if it's commercial or residential. And that's our effort.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, though, in the future, you will niche into one sector?
Yeah, I think here's where what I just said, and that sounds like a chest bumping moment, but like where that gets troublesome is when you build a team. And to get a team of variable thinking minded people that are all trying to row in the same direction, and we do 14 different kinds of project growth that way seems unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with me being a young, small team right now, we do have the ability to be flexible and maneuver, right? But I add 4 or 5 people to this, and it's like, oh man, we've got to create systems. This is what we do. These are our Friday meetings. These are the way we handle these projects. I got to keep a streamlined version of what we do at some point. So yeah, I'm going to have to canalize our efforts at some point. I don't know where that'll be.
Matt, we had a great, he was in the Air Force, another ex-military, if you will. I don't know if he was deployed. Phil Maisano.
Yeah. Was he? I don't know if he was deployed.
I think he did 4 years in the Air Force. But the one thing he said, to your point, is complexity kills consistency.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're saying here, where it's like doing so many different projects is great because we can service many different people and get as many jobs. But to your point, it's the complexity that it won't allow you to scale up, duplicate yourself, to take those trips to, to do whatever you want to do at a certain point. So I hear you. And you're talking about a team. How big do you see the team getting? Like, what's the vision as of right now? And I know that vision always kind of mends and changes over time.
The way my vision kind of gets crushed is when I put numbers to it. But I do think there are like the Ryan Holmes and the Toll Brothers and the almost like factory building, if you will. Those companies that got real big and do one thing. That's an interesting thing. I have like a true interest in having 6 to 15 just badass team. And maybe we're saying no to projects more than yes. And that's fine. But my goal is not to have 125 employees and have a billboard some way, like Valor Built, and some sort of cheesy like slogan. My goal is to have like 6 to 15 like killers, and focus that way and have our own niche that way, I would say. So I guess the other thing too is what's tricky is I could have my best year financially as a company and do 2 projects. And you know what I'm saying? So I can't go to have 15 superintendents and have 2 $30 million projects. And I'm kind of being hyperbolic here, but have 2 projects and have too many superintendents. So I have to determine where I want to grow to inside of that. So
I was going to say, construction specifically speaking, getting bigger doesn't always mean better, because I've talked to, my original job was at Turner Construction, the biggest, construction company probably in the world, or one of them. And I will say construction is the one business that there's some jobs, especially on the corporate side, as you get farther up, your job gets cushier. But in construction management, the higher you go, you actually gain more stress, and And there is that fine line with construction where it's like, if I go big, that doesn't mean I'm going to be making, you might be making more money, but with a very big cost, unless you have like your systems in order and you have great people working for you. But that's what I've seen. A lot of construction companies, they go too big and then they get burned. And then they're like, yeah, I probably should have stayed this kind of smaller, like what you're saying, because at the end of the day, you're a GC. As long as you have good subs that you could reach out to, you don't really need that many people. You could keep it lean and just rely on those contractors to take care of, you know, your projects.
Yeah, and there's a place in the world for like the armies, right? But then there's a place in the world for the SEAL Team 6, right? There's a place for both. There's a place for the McDonald's, and then there's a place for like the Honey Grows, more boutique. So it's I hear that, and that's a tough balance to manage.
Yeah, because you always want to grow. You always want to get bigger. Typically, you know.
And I think as long as I'm being honest with myself and our team, sometimes growth is another way of saying we're doing better. Like we are succeeding because we can grow. Like, oh wow, Matt, you're hiring already? Like that's pretty impressive. And it's like, yeah, we lost money last year though. Like, do you know what I mean? So when we did our taxes this year, we got to it's pretty cool. We use a software system called Buildertrend, and the accounting team we use is called Month End, and they are partnered with Buildertrend. And the owner of this accounting team worked with a building company. So his accounting structure is for builders. And when he was talking to us, he did a big speech at the Homeowners Association, this year, and he was like, "How many construction companies throughout the United States do you think are a positive net profit at the end of their year?" And I was like, 72%. He's like, "No, man, you're in the low 30s. So 30% ballpark there, and like someone will check that. But there's a ballpark of 3 out of 10 companies are actually profiting with their company. It's like, is growth really the answer? And is that a creative accounting structure where they're actually showing loss to not pay taxes? Who knows? But we made a positive, like a net profit this year as a company. So I know no matter what, bare bones, just the two of us can make money as a company. And that right there is a piece in itself, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I work with a gentleman that Nick introduced me to. He works Green Tree Group Construction, and he started, I think it was like very simple boutique, 1 home, maybe 2 homes. Then he just worked his way up to 3, and he found his ceiling. I don't think he's doing more than maybe 10 units at a time. And it was in the city. It was now he's completely in the burbs, completely in the main line. I'm fortunate to be working with him on a deal that I found a piece of land for him, and we're selling the new construction. And it was just a 3-home deal. But he's actually, I don't know his actual numbers, but I do the math in my head. I know what build costs are because I'm building as well. Nick has mentored me a lot on that stuff as well. I know that he's making a killing on these 3. Based off us obviously selling all 3 in a timely manner, because that's when you get kind of hit, is when you're taking too much time. And that's another thing that I'd love to dive into. How do you manage your time, not only your time personally, but the time on the sites? How long do you want to be on a commercial site versus a residential site? What does the ideal time frame look like for you? But anyway, he's found that perfect niche of like 10 units max, 3 minimum. Maybe I'll do a single builder home if it's the right person. And that's where, if there's the right money, and that's the alignment that you just kind of consistently look for every single day. But how are you managing your time and obviously your construction timelines and things like that right now? Because I know there's a lot going on in construction.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, that's part of the reason I like it is the crazy.
Yeah, that's fun. You gotta enjoy it. You have to fucking enjoy it, man.
Yeah,
it's so important.
Like if I woke up and punched the same numbers in all day, I would not do well. So I like when I wake up and I get that call, like, oh boy, here we go. Couldn't have planned this one.
Right. It's about making the best out of a bad situation sometimes, and it's also taking good news and running with it. So it's a mix.
Well, on that point, and then I'll answer the time point, is some of the best things we've done as a company is from recovering from a legitimate mistake. And that's where I've built trust and loyalty, is by going right to the client and saying, I screwed this up bad. This is not from a financial perspective, but I've made a mistake here. We are going to get this fixed. Here's a really poor example. We had an excavator last week drive over the neighbors. They have a real nice like road light pole. So they have a real nice, like, lighted driveway. Absolutely. And we have a hunting camera that we set up on the tree for all our sites as like a security system. And we just watched them just smoke this light pole. And the first thing,
it was a nice light pole. It was nice.
It was, yes. It is now in 7 directions. But I called the homeowner and told him, like, I showed him the video and said, we're going to replace this, this, and this. And the comfort that I saw them say, like, I don't really care that much about the light pole, but I care that you cared enough to fix it.
Yeah.
Like, when you recover from your mistakes well, I feel like that's where I make a lot of headway with trust. But yeah, from a time perspective, that one is, I'm trying to think of a way to answer that one smoothly. I would say,
there's so many different sites I know that you're on. It's tough.
Right. The thing we try to do is actually create, based off of our previous construction like projects, is we actually try to create a realistic schedule and then add 10% of days in between there for weather and lag. So we know right now that we have a hard stop for August 1 for this new construction. We started right around Christmas. And that's the only reason we gave ourselves a hard date for August 1 was because we had a 3-hour meeting on when's the drywall date. That's the big egg. If we can say, when are we putting drywall in? Because everything after that for finishes, you can kind of plan out and schedule, and there's less curveballs. But foundation, framing, plumbing, all the electrical site work, all those things, there's wrinkles to that. And there's challenge to that with weather and things you can't necessarily plan. So let's circle a date for drywall and then backwards plan from there.
I like that. I like that.
And to put a time to how we do these projects is not realistic because I'd have to go job by job. But what we do is we have a critical path that has a mid-time like date. For example, the bathrooms ones we're doing, the 5 bathrooms, we have an epoxy floors that we're pouring. That's the circle date. Like, what do we have to do to get to the floors? Because after the floors, we're just painting, trimming, and putting in finishes. So what do we have to do and how long will it take to get to that date where the epoxy I can show up and pour? And that's what we tell the client, you know?
And also, I do feel like the subs for the plumbing, electrical, HVAC are always trickier to get in, and there's fewer of them than maybe someone who could hang some cabinets, and not just hang them, but to make them the way they should. But yeah, exactly. There's a lot more variables, and I almost think of it as like a basketball game because I'm watching a ton of March Madness. Yeah. Your first half is just getting a couple buckets, getting your feet wet, getting the flow, getting the kind of rhythm of the game down. It's almost like the first 9 holes of golf. Yeah. And then you kind of like, all right, I know where my miss is right now. I know where my swing's at, or you know what I mean? I know who the hottest player on the court is. Yeah. And then in the second half, you can kind of just, all right, let's focus on that. Let's just keep moving forward.
In-game adjustments. Like that's where Bill Belichick made his living, is halftime adjustments. You know?
It's so relatable to entrepreneurship sports. It's scary. If you were good in sports,
absolutely.
I don't know if you ever played sports. Like, did you do any sports growing up?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
What was your game?
So I was a baseball player. And I played football just because I was a bigger kid and I liked hitting people. I wasn't any good.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, but yeah, I was a baseball player, and they're one of my favorite lessons. And Nick, I've talked to Nick about this because his son's starting the T-ball conversation. The best thing about baseball, in my opinion, the percentage of kids that start baseball and then play for the Phillies is astronomically low. Right. So baseball is a great sport to play because of how much you fail. And the famous quote of it is, you can go 3 for 10 and make the Hall of Fame. So if you bat 300, you're going to make the Hall of Fame, which means you're failing 7 times out of 10 at bats. The other one from it is, baseball is one of the most obvious sports in your failure, as in, you can be a left guard and miss a block and the play gets blown up, and 80% of the audience doesn't really know that was your missed block. It's, so it's a kind of a scramble. You're not really sure. If you're a shortstop and the ball goes between your legs, everyone in that county knows you just made an error. And that is a huge learning curve to know that next at bat, the ball's coming to you, and can you recover and make the next play? I love that aspect of baseball. And I think it applies to a lot of things in business too, you know?
I like that. What you just said is like, can you just execute on the next play? Right. And so many times I'll say from personal experience, I was playing ice hockey. That was my sport growing up. Dad loved the Flyers, got me into it at a young age.
Right.
And I actually would bench myself. I'm not kidding. And I know some kids that do this now that I coach, because I was like, I don't think I can make the next play. I'm still so focused on that, that mess up that I had. That guy went right around me. I didn't make my check.
Wow.
And I'm like 12 years old, crying on the bench. I'll be completely vulnerable right now, crying on the bench because, and this goes deeper into a lot of stuff, but like, I just didn't think I was good enough to make the next play. I was still like just rattled. And that's where I've learned so much I'm 28 this summer, in my like latter half of my life, like up until I was 14, which is now the halfway point of my life, I was so hard on myself and couldn't recover. And then I feel like after high school and college, I was like, you know what? It's just, I don't know what it was that clicked in me, but I was like, it doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't matter. The next play is what matters most. And people will love you as soon as you go around someone else.
Right.
But my mindset wasn't there. It's just like the light post. You know, you hit the light post down, you probably won't do that ever again now. But if you said, oh, I hit a light post, I don't think I could do this or whatever, and you dwelled on it, and that was where it really came down to, is not dwelling on those mistakes. And not dwelling on the good stuff either.
Right.
Just, hey, that was a good play.
If your mindset is, we can't back down a driveway, so how could we possibly build a house? You're never going to succeed. There'll always be something in your way and give you proof of why it's too hard for you to accomplish that. Like, you'll always find a reason to say, I can't do it. I won't be able to do it, because mistakes and problems happen. Like, for example, we did an exterior remodel, a nice one too. It's a $500,000 project. I ordered the windows. They wanted unpainted sashes on the inside. These are $45,000 windows. The windows show up painted white. I signed the DocuSign for the window company. And at the bottom, they have like a paragraph per window of nomenclature. After 3 emails saying, do not paint the inside, I signed the DocuSign that said they're showing a primed white, latex paint. So I've got $45,000 worth of windows that show up painted on the inside. And the client goes, those are not going in my house. I call the window company and they say, you signed the DocuSign.
Oh, God.
Right. So moment of, I can't afford to spend $50,000 right now for new windows. Not only can I not afford to eat $50,000, I can't afford to lose 7 more weeks on this project for waiting for the new
time. Yeah, the time.
Right. So game-winning ground ball just went through my legs there, right? I'm the shortstop. The first call is, how can we strip paint off the interior of these windows? When can we start? What's it going to cost? Like, solution, take a step back, think about it for more day, another potential solution, execute. And then it ended up being like the best thing we've done as a company. Me and my partner stayed confident through it. We actually made it through that time period, and didn't have any real like anger towards each other for me making a mistake, right? It was a team miss. And that doesn't come that comes from playing sports. I really believe that, you know?
Yeah. What was the solution? How did that end up? Did you strip the windows?
So we took 7 working days and stripped all of 19 windows.
Wow.
Hours.
And I'm sure you're doing that yourself probably, right? Like you're getting, I don't know what materials you're getting, but
we're just getting latex paint stripper and we're getting in the crevices. I had like nail things that my wife uses for her nails, and I'm scraping the inside.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. And I would go back and make it happen again right now if I could, because the guy that we hired watched the owner of the company scraping windows with a Revlon tool. He's got a client who gets to tell that they have a builder that made a mistake and fixed it and made sure it was right. Our partnership grew and solidified through a very stressful time. That was the same week my daughter was born. Like, all of that happened. It was like a big turning point moment for our company that you can't get through success. Like, you can't get those moments of solidifying your team when everything's going well, I think, you know?
Yeah, I think with business, every failure is teaching you something. And it just goes into like sports and again, back to the resilience. It's, you could let your failures define you, or you could use those failures to learn and basically get better. We call it failing forward. You know what I mean?
Right. I love that. Love that.
So it's like it's not it's how you bounce back. It's how you bounce back. So
like Jalen Hurts put it great after one of his losses. He was like, "You either win or you learn." It's that simple.
Yeah.
Some of the quotes of that team have stuck with me since the Super Bowl. But
So
even when we lost the Super Bowl, like I didn't see any kind of like, all right, I'm not good enough. Jalen was like, all right, I got to get back to work. You know, there's so many things you can learn from sports that
totally.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're bringing that up because there's so many people that can actually relate to that. Entrepreneurship is something that people are like so like scared of sometimes, right? The leap, the jump into the water. But when you think about it, it's like, oh, I kind of grew up doing this, but I just never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
It's just a really good comparison.
We always talk a lot about competition. Like that's what sports is. You're competing against another team, or like if you're wrestling, you're competing against the other guy you're wrestling. And one of the things that I noticed, like we've only been for 3 years now, but what I've noticed is you're just competing against yourself. If you're really looking at it right, the other team doesn't matter that much. And the things holding me back are mostly my BS. Mm-hmm. And the things that are holding our team back is internal. It's not, well, they've been around for longer, or his dad's rich, or he's like, no, it's mostly, if you look internally first, you're going to be more successful. And, which is another thing that I think I've talked to you, Nick, about this, is like one of my favorite things that I did not plan for that I love about entrepreneurship is it's helped me in my like personal life. So an example of that is I am a recovering people pleaser, if you will.
A serious problem.
I'm recovering. So like I enjoy being reliable for people, and that can become sometimes taken advantage of. And I enjoy pleasing people. Like I want to be a good part of people's day. And in the construction and world and in my entrepreneurship world, I said, I'm very amendable. Like if you guys can't pay until this time, that's okay. We're going to get the project done right. We're going to prove ourselves. We're going to prove ourselves. We're going to prove ourselves. All these things. And then by the year 3, you get a confidence level where you're like, a part of this is I'm going to start setting my terms. And my terms are, we need a 25% deposit because I'm purchasing $100,000 worth of materials and I'm tired of chasing money the next month. And I started looking at how I have the ability to set my terms with a relationship professionally and how I can apply them in a personal life. Like I have friends that abuse my people pleasing nature. And it's like, I'm going to start setting terms with them. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start establishing what I need for this relationship to go better for both of us, instead of constantly being like, all right, I can do it. Yep, absolutely. And I'll be there. And that is a big part of entrepreneurship. Like, our company operates this way for this project to come out the best possible way.
Yeah.
So,
no, it's like being disciplined in all aspects of it,
right.
Setting boundaries, and when the ball goes out of play, blow the whistle, stop. Yeah. Hey, let's reset now, and back to sports again, of course.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's a sports podcast now.
Right? Hey, baseball blueprint. But there's so many key things that we touched on that I think people get so much value out of, and Matt, like, where can people find you? I wish we could talk. We should set up a time to talk for another couple hours. Honestly, I'd love to see some of your job sites. I'd love to come see the house.
Yeah.
But where can people find you? How can people get in contact with you for more information about what you do, who you are?
Yeah. So we have our website is valorbuiltllc.com. We are Valor Built _construction on Instagram. Through all those sources, you can find our phone number, and obviously we'll have links to our website. I started a YouTube channel that I showed Nick, but I started a YouTube channel to document the whole story of building my house. So it's 26 episodes. They're all about 10 to 12 minutes long.
And you made some money off YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I made $38. I went and got Amy a 6-pack. It was great. But no, we got, monetized, and that to me had nothing to do obviously with money. It was the fact that people were viewing it, and it was like cool. Like it wasn't cringy in my opinion. Like I put a lot of effort into it. It's a cool story, and it's very construction focused. But then a little story about me and my family. So that YouTube channel is called Let's Build a House, and make sure you put the apostrophe in Let's, and you'll see us there. So it's 26 episodes, and it's from the day we moved from Colorado until moving into our house. It's well done. I put a lot of effort into it. So those are kind of
Incredible.
how you can see what we do and what we've done, and how you can reach out if you're interested in the project.
Awesome.
What's really going to make that channel blow up is when we build the par 3 course.
Yes.
Oh shit!
All
I'll
right,
be there
Martino,
every day.
This is I don't like to, like, you know how, like, when you drink with friends and you're like, oh, we're going to Ireland, we're gonna do it. Yeah, this is not a BS thing. Me and Nick will be teeing off in our
We're gonna have hole 1 on my property, and then the other hole is gonna go onto his.
Yeah,
We have a perfect, like, it'll work. It'll work.
Let me know if I can be a part of that. I'd love to be a part of that. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I went on Amazon and they sell biodegradable golf balls. So
Yes.
if you're earth conscious, we can buy 200 biodegradable golf balls, because we're going to have to go looking for Nick's balls for a while. So
Yeah. We don't want all that biohazard on your property.
Sure.
Yeah.
Matt, thanks for coming on, though. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you want to?
Yeah, if you guys like what you're hearing and the people that we're bringing on, please like and subscribe. It goes a long way with developing our channel and getting more people to view it. So we appreciate your time watching it. Matt, we appreciate your time speaking to us, and we can't wait to see you guys next time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Later.